So hello everyone, in this video we're going to talk about if and else statements with a few examples and leveraging the use of sequences like lists in if statements, and also a good difference between the equal to operator and the is operator. So let's get started. We may have 100 lines of code in our program, but we may only want to execute few lines of code only if it meets a certain criterion, and we have to discard few other codes if it doesn't meet the criterion. This is exactly done by if statements. So if is a keyword, and here is an expression that should evaluate to true followed by semicolon to end it. But for now I have kept it true, so it always evaluates to true. And if I have an indentation here, everything below the if statement which is indented only execute if this statement evaluates to true. So I have only one statement, one line of code here which follows the indentation of this line, and it should print hello because it is evaluated to true for now. So if I save and run it, it prints hello. So usually we don't type any keyword here. It should evaluate an expression by itself, so we don't do this by so often. So if I have a variable a is equal to 5, for some reason I want to print hello only if a is less than 10. So a is 5, 5 is definitely less than 10. So this statement is evaluates to true and hello is printed. Because if you print a less than 10, the result will be true, and this is the expression that the if condition gets and decides whether it should execute the code or not. Fails this condition, it doesn't know anything. Even though this code print hello is here, it does not execute the code. It just checks this statement and it evaluates to false. It skips this code and comes here which is without indentation. So since I don't have any code in this section, it does nothing, just prints nothing. So now let's have a simple grade assignment, and if a student gets above a grade of 40, I would say he is eligible to the next test. So the student's mark is 90 here, so I only check it if it's less than 40. So if it's greater than 40, he should be eligible. So if I save and run it, it says it's eligible. So what do I have to do if the code does not evaluate to the true expression? So there has to be another expression. So it is done with else here. So whatever it's evaluated to false here, it leaves this condition, it skips and evaluates the code whichever it is inside here. So I can print it here, ineligible. So this code runs if it is true, and if it is not true, it runs the code here. It is like an else, do this or that, but not both. So if I save and run it, I can say it's eligible. If I have like 30 marks, it should say ineligible. So I can have another example to find if a number is even number or odd number. So if I have a number 7, and if a modulus 2 is equal to 0, is evaluates to 0, it should print it's an even number, else it is an odd number. So 7 modulus 2 gives the remainder of 1. So whenever a number returns 1, if it is divided by 2, if the remainder is 1, it is an odd number. Whenever it evaluates to 0, it is an even number. So 7 has the remainder of 1, so it's an odd number. But 10 has no remainder, it has 0 remainder, so it is even. So in order to demonstrate multiple if statements, let me have a variable and assign it to a string called bike. So if this vehicle is indeed a bike, I have to print it that it is a bike. And what if I want to check if it's a car? So I have just to do else if or simply elif. So else if is just like else. Else does not execute any condition, but else if does. So because it's an if statement, execute else and also if. So if this vehicle is a car, I have to print it is a car. So I can just have many other types if I want. Just copy paste here, and if I want truck, I can print truck. So this is the demonstration of else if statements. These are the three vehicles that it has to be checked, and it does not identify any vehicle as these three. I have to print unknown vehicle. So if I have bike, if I save and run it, it prints it is a bike. So let me clear. So if it's a truck, it prints it as a truck. But if I give like a train, for example, I have not listed anything here, so every other conditions fail. So this is by default executes if no condition matches any of these. So since I have not listed train in any of it here, it prints it is an unknown vehicle. So there are three important boolean operators. They are and, or, and not. So these three type of boolean operators are very helpful in if condition. Assume that we are in charge of a toll gate in a freeway, and we have to pass only a biker who has a license. So first we have to check if he is a biker and if he has a license. So we can do this by if he's a biker and if he has a license. So let's assume he has a license and have it true here. So we have to first check if it's a bike, and next we have to also check if license and print you can pass. So if I save and run it, you can see you can pass. So first we checked if it's a bike and also checked if his license is true. This is nested if, but in this example we can use a simple assignment using and. So if we want both the conditions to be checked and if both of them are true, we have to execute it. This is done by the and operator. And license. The first condition checks vehicle is bike. It is true since vehicle is bike, and license is also true. Since both of these conditions are true, this print statement will be printed. So this is exactly the same as one, but it's simpler. But if any one of them fails, so he's a biker but he doesn't have a license, so nothing happens. You can say else. So this is the output. So for our second example, assume that we have to pass only small vehicles like a bike. We don't want to check for license. Assume that the road is narrow enough only for bikes. So if it's a bike, I can pass. But what if it's a cycle entering here? So I have to check if it's also a cycle. I can say elif vehicle is a bicycle, print you can pass. So since both of these statements are basically doing the same work, we can just combine these both into a single if statement by doing or. In this expression, the vehicle check if it's a bike. If it is not true, it checks if it's a bicycle. If any one of them is true, it prints you can pass. So if I have a bike now, you can pass. If I have a bicycle here, says you can pass, because we have checked if it's a bike or a bicycle. This vehicle is a bicycle, so this is true but this is false. It doesn't matter because we are using or operator. If any one of them is true, this is executed. But if we don't specify anything here and we use car, which is not mentioned anywhere here, it says you shall not pass. Let me have the license example and print false. So we now want to restrict every vehicle, even though irrespective of the vehicle, I don't want even this vehicle here. If it doesn't have a license, we have to restrict him. So that is exactly what the not does here. So not is a boolean operator which just inverts the true or false conditions. So license is false here. So not takes that false and inverts it to true. So if true, it means that he doesn't have license. It says you cannot pass. Else we can print you can pass. So this is the use of not operator, and it can be combined with any if operator. So let me have the previous example where we used to pass a bike or a bicycle. Suppose now we want to add a scooter, we can just go ahead and do this vehicle equal to scooter, but we don't want to do this and the length of the code increases. So instead I have a list L is equal to that says bike or bicycle or scooter. So now if the vehicle belongs to any one of these, it should be said it can pass. So if vehicle in L, this means this vehicle, we have chosen a bike here, and this vehicle is in the list. So this is the list of vehicles that it can pass. So as the vehicle is in the list of allowed vehicles, it says you can pass. If it's not anyone in the list, let's say it's train here, says you shall not pass. So now let's talk about the difference between is operator and equal operator. So if I have a list, A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also B is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I check if A equal to B, print they are equal, else print no. So A is the list containing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and B also contains the same elements. So when we run it, it prints they are equal. So but if we check if A is B, it says no, they are not equal. It's because these elements have a different object ID. So you can think of it as like having shared the memory location. This is A is stored in a different memory location and B is stored in a different memory location. So is compares the ID of both of these variables. So even though they have the same elements, they are not stored in the same memory address. So if I print the address of A, ID, you can say by ID of A, and I can print ID of B. So you can see that these two elements, even though they have the same elements inside them, A and B, they have different object ID. So is compares these object ID. It's like comparing if ID of A is equal to ID of B. But instead if I do this, B equals A, I assign the contents of A to B, and also B shares the same location as of A. So if I save and run this time it shows they have the same address, and since is compares the addresses of these two IDs, it says they are equal. So since they are equal, this is the reason if we change B of like 0 is equal to 100, it also reflects in A. Print A and print B. So I have changed that B of 0 equal to 100 only in B. I have nothing to do with A. But since B shares the same object ID as A, whatever is changed in B is also changed in A. So that's different between equal to and is operator. And below I have a list when and if conditions will evaluates to true or false. So an if condition The block in the condition are not executed when the if block evaluates to false, if it contains a false or a none, or any value that containing 0.0 or 0, any number that evaluates to 0, or empty containers like empty list, empty tuple, an empty dictionary, an empty string. So whenever the if statement encounters any of these, it evaluates to false, and the opposite is true. Other than those, everything that will be evaluated is true. So like 0.1, 10 or -3, whatever, it is not a 0, it is not none, it is not false, so it will be evaluated to true. And also this string has a space character here, so if it's an empty string like this will evaluate to false, but since I have a space, it does not evaluate to false, it is evaluated as true. And I have a list which containing only a single number of 0. Since the list is not empty, it does not care about the contents inside the list, it should not be empty. So even if it's 0, it is evaluated to true. So thank you for watching this video. Leave a like if you like this. Thank you.